The air hung heavy with the scent of cedar and damp earth, the kind of smell that sinks into your bones when you've lived long enough in a place like Willow Creek Valley. My cabin, perched on a ridge overlooking the valley, had been my father's before it was mine, a weathered outpost he'd built to stand guard against wildfires that could swallow this land whole. It wasn't much to look at, logs worn smooth by decades of wind, a chimney that leaned just a hair, but it was more than a home. It was a promise, a line drawn in the dirt to keep the forest alive. My dad used to say, "If this place falls, the valley burns." I never doubted him. Not until the day they came for me, waving papers and shouting accusations that turned my world upside down. It was a crisp October morning in 2023 when the trouble started. I was sipping coffee on the porch, the steam curling up like a ghost, when the growl of tires chewed through the quiet. A black SUV roared up the trail, spitting gravel and dust into the air. The valley's peace shattered as doors slammed and boots hit the ground. Four figures marched toward me, their neon vests glaring against the soft greens and browns of the trees. At the front was Margaret Hayes, her voice sharp enough to slice through steel, calling my name like it was a curse. She waved a stack of papers, claiming my cabin was illegal, a hazard, a blight on the land. The men behind her echoed her, their words piling up like stones, each one heavier than the last. They said my roof was a fire risk, my chimney a spark waiting to ignite the valley. I stood there, coffee mug trembling in my hand, my heart hammering so loud I could barely hear the creek's murmur. I thought of my dad, how he'd stand on this same porch, scanning the horizon for smoke, calm as stone. I set the mug down, slow and deliberate, and went inside. My hand found the shotgun, its wood grip smooth from years of quiet presence. I didn't aim it. I didn't need to. I carried it out and leaned it against the porch rail, the steel catching the pale sunlight. That was enough. Their shouting stumbled, then stopped. Margaret's eyes flickered, her anger cracking for a split second. One man took a step back, then another, his heel catching on the steps. They scattered like spooked deer, piling into their SUV, the engine roaring as they tore down the trail. Margaret lingered just long enough to spit a promise. She'd be back with real authority. Her words hung in the air, bitter as smoke. As their dust settled, I noticed something by the steps, a folder, thick and smeared with dirt, abandoned in their haste. I picked it up, brushing off pine needles, and my stomach twisted when I saw the words Hayes Enterprises stamped on the cover. Inside were blueprints, cold and precise, mapping out a future that made my blood run cold. Roads sliced through ancient cedar groves. Condos sprawled over meadows where wildflowers bloomed. A resort complex, complete with pools and parking lots, swallowed the creek whole. And there, in the center of it all, was my cabin, marked with a red X like a tombstone. I sank onto the steps, the pages trembling in my hands. This wasn't just about me. They wanted to erase the valley, to pave over everything my dad had fought for. Rage burned in my chest, but fear gnawed at the edges. They had money, lawyers, and a vision that could seduce anyone who didn't know better. All I had was this cabin, my dad's memory, and the truth in my shaking hands. The next morning, fog rolled in thick, blurring the line between trees and sky. I brewed coffee, hoping the ritual would steady me, but my hands still shook from the memory of Margaret's threats. Then I heard it again, the low growl of an engine cutting through the mist. A green truck emerged, stamped with what looked like official county seals. Two men stepped out, their uniforms crisp, their badges gleaming. They carried clipboards and spoke with the kind of authority that makes you question yourself. They called my cabin a fire hazard, said I was endangering lives, demanded I leave immediately. Neighbors gathered at the trail's edge, their faces half hidden in the fog, watching like jurors. For a moment, I felt my grip on reality slip. Their papers looked real, stamped and signed, their truck polished to a shine. But my dad's voice echoed in my head. "Look close, son. Always look close." So I did. I asked them what code F-12 meant in fire regulations. The taller man blinked, his mouth opening and closing like a fish. His partner shifted, eyes darting away. Silence spread like wildfire. I pressed harder, pointing out the seal on their papers, too sharp, too fresh, not quite right. The neighbors stirred, whispers rippling through the fog. A woman called out that the seal looked fake. Another demanded to see the papers up close. The men's confidence crumbled. They shouted, waved their clipboards, but the crowd wasn't buying it anymore. The truck peeled out, mud flying, leaving only silence and doubt behind. That night, I pored over the folder again, the blueprints burning into my mind. Hayes Enterprises wasn't just planning a resort, they were rewriting the valley's future, erasing its past. I found my dad's old journals in a trunk, their pages brittle but alive with his steady handwriting. He'd logged every wildfire he'd spotted from this cabin, every radio call that saved homes. Tucked between the pages were dispatch logs, stamped with federal seals, listing this cabin as a registered fire watch post. It wasn't just a home, it was a shield, a piece of the valley's defense. The truth was there, inked in my dad's hand, but I knew it wouldn't be enough unless I could make others see it. The days grew darker, not with clouds, but with suspicion. The Homeowners Association, led by Margaret, turned the valley against me. My grocery deliveries went missing. My power flickered while other houses stayed lit. Notices piled up in my mailbox, fake citations for unapproved docks, septic violations, all lies dressed in official ink. I checked county records late into the night, finding no trace of these claims. It was a campaign to break me, to make me doubt my own reality. Neighbors stopped waving. A jogger crossed the street to avoid me. Flyers I posted about a cleanup vanished hours later. One night, I saw a light in the HOA office, a figure scanning papers into a machine, each sheet another nail in my coffin. My world shrank to the cabin, the shotgun, and the growing stack of forged documents. Then came the fire. It started small, a faint whiff of smoke I thought was leaves burning. But it grew fast, black and choking, clawing up the ridge. Panic swept the valley. People screamed, pointing at me, clutching Margaret's flyers that claimed I'd set the blaze to prove my point. The accusation hit like a punch, but I ran toward the flames, my dad's maps in hand. The fire roared, heat searing my skin as I shouted for buckets, for shovels, for help. Most stood frozen, torn between fear and doubt. Then an old man, Henry, stepped forward. He'd helped my dad build this cabin, he said, his voice steady as he vouched for its purpose. I spread the maps on the ground, showing the water veins beneath us, protected by county codes. If the cabin fell, the valley's water would dry up, leaving the land brittle. Slowly, people moved, Clara passing buckets, Ellen guiding kids to safety. We fought the fire together, digging trenches, dousing flames until the smoke thinned. Exhausted, ash-smeared faces turned to me, not with suspicion but with something like respect. The cabin wasn't just mine anymore. It was theirs, too. But Margaret wasn't done. At the next town meeting, she stood tall, promising parks, jobs, a glittering future. The crowd clapped, swayed by her vision. I stepped forward, my dad's journals heavy in my hands, and told them the truth. This cabin was a fire watch post, its history sealed in federal records. Clara backed me, recalling firefighters at the creek years ago. Ellen, her voice frail but fierce, spoke of my dad saving homes in '79. The room shifted, doubt creeping into Margaret's applause. Then Clara threw an envelope onto the table, receipts, bank statements, proof of Margaret's bribes with Hayes Enterprises. The crowd erupted. Margaret screamed I was a liar, but her own man, Tom, confessed. He'd spread her lies, worn fake uniforms, blamed me for the fire. The hall became chaos, voices clashing, friendships breaking. Margaret's empire crumbled as neighbors shouted her down, her lies exposed like bones in the dirt. She made one last stand, bursting into my cabin with forged papers, claiming I was a squatter. I set the shotgun beside her stack, not to threaten, but to anchor the moment. Clara held the papers to the light, exposing their sloppy seals. The room turned on Margaret, her screams drowned by their rejection. She fled into the night, her power broken, her rage a fading echo. The valley healed slowly. We rebuilt together, chopping fallen trees, planting seedlings, mending fences. The cabin became a gathering place, its walls humming with laughter and stories. The creek sang clearer, the forest breathed easier. My dad's words stayed with me. If this post falls, the valley burns. It hadn't fallen. It never would. What would you have done? Would you have grabbed the shotgun or trusted words alone? Can a single truth outweigh a crowd's belief in lies? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Hit that like button if this story gripped you. and subscribe for more tales where truth fights to stand tall.